couch here. Hello and welcome to Powered by Intuition. Woo! It has been another doozy of a day, but there is nothing like supporting your local community and making sure that those who are around you are cared for. And this is mainly elders within my community, elders that need the support. And I'm supporting four, actually more than that, over the whole spectrum of elders that I am supporting. There's quite a few. And it is really important to support elderly people in your community. And not just from, like they need help, but from the practical standpoint. If you are someone that wants to hear incredible stories, that is insatiably curious, it is really important to hang around elders because their stories are phenomenal. It is really important to understand what history is like, and it's even more important hearing it directly from a person's mouth of what their experience of their history was and what that is all about. Because history books, as my daughter has put it as of late, are boring. But when you hear these stories, like real stories from real people, that's not diluted, convoluted, or manipulated to make things appear in a certain way, then you have something. And it connects you deeper to what life is like, your expectations around life, and how to deviate from the glamorized, the BS that we are constantly beamed, which comes at a sacrifice of our autonomy, a sacrifice of who we are, a sacrifice of our identity, which kind of brings me into hello and welcome on the Clock app. Thank you for joining. So this brings me to the point of the matter, which having these insights and hanging around a lot of older individuals, this has helped me set a perspective on life. This has brought wisdom and more insights onto so many different things. So like last week, how I mentioned, was it last week or the week before? I forget. But I mentioned I met an elderly gentleman who was like, yeah, I was born in the 30s. So I went through all this stuff and I'm seeing the patterns happen again. And just phenomenal story. I only have within 15 minutes of talking, like we bounced around so many different subjects within 15 minutes, which was pretty incredible. And it shows how whip smart someone who is 87-year-old, an 87-year-old can be. Like they can have all their faculties intact. He swims every day. He walks 2 miles every day, does Tai Chi every day, reads the I Ching every day. Like, wow. And it's like, okay, you're 87 years old and you're doing this and you can outpace a lot of people nowadays. That's incredible. That's phenomenal. And so I really encourage people to just take time to sit down with an elderly person. If you see one like on the side of the street, sometimes you'll see them on the side of the street trying to do things that they really should not be doing, trying to overextend themselves, and just give them a ride. Ask them if they need help. Like, just step up. That's community. That's being in your humanity. That is being humane. Show up for people. If you have the time, if you have the space, show up. And their stories, their knowledge, their wisdom, their experience is priceless. Like, I regret not getting my Czechoslovakian great grandparents' story because, like, there's a whole chunk of my family's history that's missing. And it's like, well, what was Czechoslovakia like before, all this crazy stuff went down? What was Czechoslovakia like before Czech and Slovakia split? What was their history? What was their family dynamic? Was it a good thing? Was it a bad thing? We know that there's a connection with mining. They seem to have money, and maybe they were hiding out because of that. I don't know. They were married for 72 years before unaliving did they part. And that is incredible. So one of the insights that I learned from that is, like, back in that day on their 50th anniversary, they got a letter from the president, which my great grandfather was so proud of. Like, that was one of the things that I learned. And he was like, I got this letter and congratulations for the president for, being married for this long. And I don't know if that tradition's been carried on, but it's pretty cool. That gets acknowledged, that gets known, that it's, this amazing thing. Thank you so much, Midnight Queen, for joining. But there are these things that when we don't connect with people who are older than us, we miss out on. We miss out on so much. And so this does bring me to my topic. And there is one thing that I know about older people, and sometimes they want to be the victim of their age. Okay, I'm going to say that sometimes, but it's not something that defines them. They still live life, right? Like, they're aware, hey, things aren't working the way that they used to. There's a lot of aches and pains and, all that stuff, but they're still living life. It doesn't define them. And something that I've been seeing a lot of lately, and it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter really, where you are. I've seen it in different areas, might be more so in one area than another, but how people jump to victimize themselves. And this isn't to say that those who have been through serious situations are not victims, but being a victim doesn't have to define you. The circumstance has brought about you being a victim of that circumstance, but that circumstance is complete within that moment. Afterwards, you can choose, okay, how do I handle this? What do I have control over? And how do I move forward from this point on? Unfortunately, because there just isn't enough support and resources for people dealing with trauma, dealing with a variety of situations. And this is an acknowledged deficit within our society. But people never get past being a victim. Like, they're a victim and they stop. And it's like, okay, sure, you were a victim in that moment. That moment needs to be a complete moment. And the only way to make that a complete moment is to not drag the past forward with you. You need to let the past go back there. And then I'm embodying Sankofa. Sankofa is like, it's a bird that's kind of looping back to grab an egg off its back. It is also a little spiral heart thing. I don't have them up here. I did a while ago, where I created little Sankofa pieces, and I had no idea that I was creating Sankofa pieces. So, but they were exactly that Sankofa symbol. Go back and get it is what it basically translates to. So when you go back and get it, it's those with the bird representation of it. It's grabbing an egg. What do eggs do? Eggs grow into chicks, and those chicks grow up. And it's a passing forward. It's growing life. It's not perpetuating unaliving or a deficit. So when we carry forward something that steals from us, that is not serving or supporting us. That is doing more harm now in the present, and we're carrying that harm into the future instead of leaving that harm back in the past where it belongs. So with these moments, let me read this real quick from Ray. I'm guilty of not letting the past stay because I feel like it isn't resolved. And that's the thing. It is a complete moment, right? It's a complete moment. It needs to stay like that. So when we're removing pieces of it and we're dragging it forward with us, we're not letting that moment be complete, right? It's like, it's that cycle, it's that circle, that complete moment, and we got to keep it back there. But you carry forward what you learn from it. You can change your future. And that's not really like change your future, but it does, because when we do not heal, we perpetuate that same cycle over and over again because we've carried that complete moment. Now we're taking pieces of that into the future with us. So I'm creating more of a visualization dynamic, right? So it's like, if we take apart a, baseball has like two pieces and kind of like they're little, like almost figure eight pieces, just not quite a figure eight. But let's say we take out the stitches of that, right? And then we're just pulling that stitch forward. And we have that little ball trailing behind us in the past, but we're still carrying that burden of that past. We're still carrying this with us. So it's not that little, complete thing. Now it's opened up. Now these pieces are spilling out from, whatever's inside the baseball that's comprised of it. Now it's getting more messy because we haven't completed the cycle of that event. And completing that cycle of that event is coming to terms with it, that is acknowledging it fully, completely, being like, yes, this happened. And now I learned. When it comes from I learned, do not learn a negative thing from it. Do not learn a maladaptive thing from that. You need to learn a positive thing that grows your life. You're taking that egg, you're going to incubate that egg, and you're going to watch it grow and flourish into a complete, beautiful new being. Right? Like, you want to nurture something that is healthful, that is beneficial for your life, something that, a legacy that you want to carry forward. And you have to stop and think, like, is this nastiness that happened in the back something that is that good? Is that beneficial? Is that what you want to be known for? Or do you want to be known for, hey, this, let's say, in the circumstance of SA, this SA happened, but I'm going to move forward and I'm going to support others who are going through this. I'm going to move forward and I'm going to change legislation around this so that punishments are steeper. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to speak with police officers on how to deal with people who are going through the crisis moment of this event. I'm going to do something to actually support and benefit humanity, rather than, oh my gosh, this happened. Oh my gosh, these people are horrible. They're always going to be bad. They're always going to be terrible. I can never trust this person again. I can't do this. I can't, do that. And, or the specific harm perpetuation of like, well, I'm going to be whoever I want to be. I don't care. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And, you're not supposed to do this, even if I do this type of thing, which, that rarely ever works really well. That actually causes more antagonism. And I think, when we're in this state and we carry forward an adverse healing dynamic, it perpetuates the harm. So another aspect, which is an interesting study that came through lately, is how people can pinpoint who they are going to take advantage of next. And it happens with the way that you walk. Are you paying attention to your surroundings? Are you, do you have your shoulders up? Is your head up? Do you look like you're comfortable in the space? All of these things play a part. And I remember, I'm not really on dating apps anymore. Kind of am, but not really. Not out there seeking really. But I would go on these dates and I would pretty much see these little nuances of these tests. And, one of them was like, thank you. Yeah, Sankofa is a good perspective shift. Absolutely. One of them was like, oh yeah, we're going to meet up here at this day and time, and then would cancel last minute. And then, okay, great. Like, stuff happens. Like, I'm late tonight. Stuff happens. I was late last week too. Stuff happens, but I still showed up. Okay. I still made it work. All right. But so on the third time that this happened, I was like, we're not scheduling again. Sorry. This is not respectful of my time. This is not respectful of me. And of course, the dude like went off. And, then I ripped him a new one where it's like, even if there's a point where it was an industry person and we had some mutual friends, which is why I gave it a chance. But I was like, even if there was a point that I could work with you, I wouldn't, because this is ridiculous. You can't even try to show up. You couldn't even negotiate like a better time. And when we did, the same thing happened. When that happens 3 times, I'm done. Like, I'm not playing this game. And, I've kind of whittled that down to even less time. So I was kind of dating someone. It was weird. It was awkward. There was no real distinct thing around it. So, I don't know what people call that, but it was like perspective. The dude was like, hey, can we do the date? And I was like, hey, no. That comes way down the line with, commitment and that stuff. But there was same thing happened again where, we made plans for something, and then this happened 2 times where he was like, just didn't show up, didn't reach back out. And I was like, hey, are you going to show up? Oh yeah, I got busy with this. Oh, really? Okay. All right. Okay, cool. We're done. And it's not, so it's not something that I'm angry or hostile or carrying forward. It's something that I've learned from, where it's like, I'm either going to respect myself in this moment, and respecting myself means not going after men. It means not pursuing. It means not forcing, not coercing, not feeling bad about this situation, because it's not about me. It's about their stuff, and let their stuff be their stuff. I'm not going to take that on myself. I'm going to love and respect myself. I'm going to care for myself in those moments. I'm not going to do anything where I'm going to accrue any backlash. Like, if I straight up and attack a person, they're by all means going to attack me back, right? So, that was the lessons that I learned along the way. And you have to learn these lessons to make a difference in your life. So, hey, Alex, hello. Stick around, because I'm going to invite you up, because we got a podcast. Thank you everybody for joining on the Clock app. But when we do these situations, we've got to leave the past in the past. We got to take with us what we've learned and the positive learning, so that we make changes in our lives, so that we learn and grow, that we are not accruing more hostility towards us because we're perpetuating hostility, and that we work through these things and not just let them lie dormant and fester to where they grow and dominate our lives, where we're not even in control of our own life. We're letting our victimhood run rampant. So this brings me to another point where some people want to get the biggest victim award. And this is not an award. I mean, yes, some people have weaponized it. But what happens afterwards? So recently came across a video today of the woman who used a racial slur against a child. And then she tried raising money, and then people found out, oh yeah, she's been on the run for doing some other things too. And who knows if she got that money. But after, that happened and the internet did its backlash, of course she cried, about that situation. And, she wanted to be the bigger victim, even though she perpetuated harm to begin with. And this is why we want to clear out that victim mentality, because when we are locked in a victim mode, we are unintentionally going to be perpetuating harm forward. And what does that look like? So with a racially motivated reaction, that's going to be a little tough, because sometimes there's things of just like, you know, mental instability, drug use, abuse from certain sort of situations, or just, you know, the way that they've been brought up or the community that they've been brought up in. And it's kind of an automatic robotic thing. Other times, let's say with a situation of you're dealing with someone that is non-confrontational, and you're a person that's like, I need to have closure around this situation. That creates huge conflict, right? Because you're like, no, we need to resolve this. The non-confrontational person is like, yeah, deal with it. And they run off and they don't handle anything. And that's a challenging situation, because it's like, a non-confrontational person obviously can only handle what they can handle in the space that they are in right now. For whatever reason, that happens. So when a person is trying to resolve an issue and then, you know, tries to connect with a non-confrontational person, everything goes haywire. And so, you know, when there's the person who maybe is trying to resolve something, let's say they deal with abandonment issues, speaking about this from experience, okay? If that person who is trying to be like, hey, we need to work through this, I need to know we're all good. You know, there's people pleasing behaviors with people who have abandonment issues, and they really want to know that things are good. And then you have a non-confrontational person that's just like, running away. You have trauma stacking on trauma, going after trauma, and it just creates total chaos, which is like, what do you do in that situation, right? It all comes down to healing yourself. Okay. And then, so for the person who's dealing with abandonment issues and needs that people pleasing, it's like, okay, you need to work through understanding that it's not about you, that they have their stuff, you have yours, you need to handle your ish. Okay. You know, and it's like, don't put anything else in the space, because when we're dragging that trauma with us, we're putting all this stuff into the space. Let's not do that, because that is the spiral. That is the rumination of like, well, I guess they hate me, I guess they don't like me, I guess, you know, this, and I guess that, and I guess this. And all of a sudden you have this whole fantasized storyline about the situation, and it's completely fake. It's just a hallucination, because, you know, you're dragging your past into the present rather than letting the past stay in the past, healing that, making that a complete moment, and then only taking what you've learned from that. That's what healing is all about. And then for the non-confrontational person, they're going to have to learn how to withstand dealing with confrontation, and then the discernment to know when is a good moment to be like, I need to get out of here. Communicate that, hey, I can't handle this right now. Let's talk when things are calmer, and setting a time limit for that. And then healing from whatever brought them to that space. Same thing, you know, with the person who has abandonment issues, healing with whatever brought them to that space, right? So that's usually like childhood trauma that's been pulled forward with us that we get to unlearn within our lifetimes. Let me see, my trauma was horrible. I wish it on no one, but it made me really funny. I mean, that actually is a way to cope with it. When you can laugh at it, when you can bring it forward and it doesn't hurt anymore, that's when you know you've processed it. So thank you, Turbo Nerdo, for sharing that, because actually laughing at it is powerful. Laughter is, you know how, I'm going to go deep in the woo-woo. You know how shamans use the drum beat, even clapping works too. Laughter clears the air. Same thing with that snap. It's like it's this thing to jerk you out of that situation. So when you laugh, laughter is really healing. Like there are whole subsets of healing modalities, and Craig Shoemaker is one who does this. He actually runs the organization called Laughter Heals, so check that out. But he has some incredible stories of how just laughter has literally created amazing healings within people's lives. So that is actually a really great thing to bring up. So thank you for sharing that. So here's the other thing. When we stay, and sorry, just want to say, laughter cuts through everything. So when that snap or when you laugh, it even works on physical pain too. So a really messed up story. My brother and I do not get along. We are not the closest of people. He has literally physically knocked the wind out of me twice. The second time I was laughing my butt off and it didn't hurt as much. And I was like, huh, that's kind of cool. And I recovered much quicker because I was laughing. And it was just a noticeable difference with that. So here's my go-to line for awkward moments where someone says something that isn't possible. Well, not in that attitude. Nice. So laughter is important. When you can look at it and you can go, wow, that was awkward, that was messed up, but I'm shifting that energy in that moment. I'm shifting how I view it in the present now. I'm shifting as much as I can. But you have to really, it takes time. It takes effort. It's not like an immediate thing. Sometimes it takes a lot of work through, like if you're dealing with PTSD, that takes a lot of time. That takes holistic modalities. That's almost when in those PTSD moments, it's very involuntary. So like that past is just right there, kind of like comes up on you, and there's not much you can do within that moment. So there's certain things that you can begin doing, and that's more under the umbrella of hypnotherapy, where it's like you pre-program in your brain what's safe and what's not. So if you are somewhere and you start feeling triggered, start being like, okay, this is safe space. Keep repeating that over again. This is a safe space. I need to get to this space. This is a safe space. I need to get to this space. This is a safe space. I need to get to this space. Take yourself out of the moment, get to that space, away from whatever is triggering that paradigm. That's one way, but depending on what aspect of PTSD you're dealing with, once again, that's a whole different thing. That's kind of different from living in the narrative of being a victim. So the other aspect is the rewards for being a victim. There are rewards there of, you can see this with certain individuals where, people kind of just throw themselves at them to support them to do whatever they can, even if they are the perpetuators of harm. Right? So this is weaponized victim mentality. This is the thing with a lot of people do it. But I noticed it was certain types of people where, typically people with narcissistic tendencies will do this as well. They'll pack a punch and then cry. And then blame you for making them pack the punch, which is like, wow, that's really weird. But point out in the moment that A, they have no self-control, B, they're weak, and C, they have a lot of healing to do. Right? So it's like seeing what's in the moment. It's like, oh, wow, you did this and didn't expect the consequences of your actions. That's very interesting. Yeah, I mean, that sucks, but look at the situation, right? So it seems, it is kind of like a power struggle, but then when you see it happen and you just walk away, what power do they have? And this is something that, kids are kids, right? But a lot of those narcissistic tendencies come from a childhood trauma that's been perpetuated within their lives, and adverse coping mechanisms that have been programmed within that person. But when you see them as a child acting out, some people will want to rush to coddle. Just walk away. Especially when it's adult, it's like, just let them handle their stuff. I don't need to give them attention. Like they can handle their stuff. They're an adult, or even say that, hey, I trust you that you're an adult. You can get through this. There's a lot that you can do within that situation, but really it's immaturity at its finest when we see those sort of things happen. And it's like, you want to go, hey, this is messed up. But you have to look at the ramifications that, how is someone supposed to, let's bring in an idea of like men. How is someone supposed to, support a man or respect a man when they do this victim behavior to everything around them and don't come to terms with, hey, what am I doing? They typically want to blame it on women, be like, oh, well, women did this, women did that. And it's like, wow, they really have power over you, don't they? I'm not sure how masculine that is when you're saying all these things have power over you, huh? That's interesting. I thought you were, you were a manly man, but no. Wow. Like Andrew Tate screaming about, not having coffee when he was in that Romanian jail. I was like, wow, coffee really has power over you. I thought you were supposed to be a manly man, but I mean, you can't do a day without coffee. Oh, well, huh? That's kind of, you call that man? Okay. All right. Well, okay. So this is the thing to look at. Like, when we're in these spaces, what are we being a victim to? What are we being a victim to? And it's like, we get to stop and be like, whoa, I am not a victim to a car breaking down. I'm going to handle it. I'm not a victim to, dude ghosting me. I'm not going to be his victim. I'm going to do my life. Screw you, ghosting you, but these are moments, and each moment designates a different sort of response, right? So it's like something that you have no control over with, SA. It's how do you heal from that? How do you come to terms with that? And then what is the positive thing that you can carry forward to, heal from that, to make a difference in the world, to do what you need to do, right? And then when it comes to, these little circumstances or, the stupid things that we do or that, we experience from others that aren't severely debilitating to us, we have to stop and think, like, am I a victim towards that? Oh, wow. That's messed up. Like, why am I going to give this my power? Why am I going to give my power to this? Why am I giving my ability to do things over to this circumstance? That's ridiculous. The other aspects are also, when we don't heal from this, we perpetuate our victimhood forward by these events repeating and repeating and repeating again. Because people who prey upon others can spot behaviors. And when we are not healed, those behaviors come out with or without our knowledge. And there was one more thing that I wanted to bring up. And that is, when we make people bigger than us, when we pedestalize people, we not only create a dynamic to make them fall, but we create a victim to their fall, a victim narrative to their fall, because they weren't who we prop them up to be. We made them bigger than ourselves, and we made them out to not be human. We dehumanized them in a grandiose sense. people are not infallible. And when we see influencers, like there was one influencer recently who fell from grace, surprise, surprise, like this is anything out of the norm. This is going to happen to all of them because nobody is perfect. And sometimes there is a balance, right? With cancel culture, sometimes people go all out on things that really don't need to happen. Like, let's say the white woman tears, right? There is an immediate reaction to jump to the aid, to attack, to, you know, be self-righteous rather than being a support of that person, being discerning within the situation, being open to understanding and seeing the other party of what may have happened. Depends on the situation, right? But it's challenging because there are people that weaponize these sorts of scenarios, that profit off of these sorts of scenarios. And then there's people that they harm unintentionally because we may succumb or believe something that may not even be true. So when we're doing these things, it's like be in the moment with that person, but don't be so jumpy to attack someone else without hearing the totality of the situation. And a lot of times it's if you don't get locked up in all of the emotions that are happening, there are ways to figure out, like, hey, what's a way that we can work through this? Granted, depends on the situation. It depends on the situation. Some situations are trickier than others, but what I can say is when you're dealing with someone that is actually dealing with a crisis moment, being there 100% for them, period. Not taking your time to attack someone, but just being there. Hey, how can I support you? What do you need? If you need any support groups, I have resources. That sort of thing is what's helpful. But when you go, oh, this person's a jerk, and you really don't know if they're a jerk, just support the person that's there. Just support them or point out what's not working. There was the video that I did with the woman who's like, well, Beyonce did this ad, and it's clearly fake outrage, manufactured outrage. Those things, you're going to figure that stuff out if you do some credible research and not just be like, victim by just being. Let's try to get out of those mentalities because that's a power paradigm that actually is designed to keep you small. So this is the final stretch. I know I'm going a little bit long tonight, but as a Black woman, I've had to think long and hard on this. And granted, I am lighter skinned, but as a Black woman, I just DGAF. I don't give a hoot. I don't care who people are. I care how they are. And I have no problems of calling them out on their ish. Okay. And I don't see, let me rephrase that. The baseline of how I regard people is human. Being human comes with a package of, I will regard you as a human being. I will see you. I will hear you. I will acknowledge your existence as a human being. It doesn't matter if you are passed out on the street, being homeless, or if you are in the highest, wealthiest echelon. And trust me, you can ask people that are in the highest echelon that I have encountered. I don't care who you are. I care how you are. And I will be that bish. And that is how I come towards people. I don't see them as different than me. I don't see them as like anything vile or deplorable. Humans are humans. Humanity is its own package. It doesn't matter if you're completely disabled and catatonic, like, you're human, period. There are things that as a human, I'm going to regard human to human, because I acknowledge that I am a human. I acknowledge that they're a human. And then, things go from there as to how I deal with people and deal with situations and circumstances. And so another thing that I do is, I point out how people embarrass themselves, right? So it's like, if a person is going to treat a Black person as an animal, it's like, wow, that's a human being, right? Well, no, they're not. Yes, they are. Like, you got to be real ignorant to not see that. Like, are you okay? Do you even know biology? Not like they're always going to, care about that, but I'm going to navigate the world within my power, within the things that I have privilege in, within the things that I have knowledge in, which is a lot. But I'm going to stand for myself. I'm going to love myself. I'm going to take myself out of spaces that don't respect me. I'm going to take myself out of situations where I know that I don't feel safe. I'm going to take myself out of situations where I know that I'm not going to be comfortable, and I'm going to love and protect myself in this way, because I know that it is self-care at the end of the day. Like, I'm not going to push myself into things that do not support or benefit me. I'm not going to try to push myself into a place that I know I'm not going to feel comfortable in. Those people are going to be those people. But if there's disrespect in that, I'm just going to, I have better things to do. I have other people that value my time, that value my energy, that I can deal with, right? And even with, people trying to do trolling behavior, it's like, they'll try garnering a specific type of response. And when I don't play that game, it's very different. Things turn out very differently. And sometimes I get some information that I don't think they intended to give out, but it's cultivating that respect because of that baseline understanding. Like the other day, I do some dog walks. So I walk around a neighborhood that is a little on the wealthier side. And there was this dude that was lying in the street as I drove by, and I was like, oh, that's not that. What is going on here? And so, ended up walking up to this guy, and I was like, hey, are you okay? And the dude's like, and I'm like, hey, people in this neighborhood starting to wake up, and I just want to make sure that you're safe. Because, I don't want them calling on the cops or anything on you. And the dude was fine. He was just resting. Obviously, was unhoused in the moment. But, these are just the little things that we can do to regard the humanity in each other and step up for each other. Because A, that neighborhood doesn't need to be freaked out. B, that dude doesn't need to be dealing with the freak out of a neighborhood. And it wasn't a violent or, vicious, mean individual. He was just, resting where he could rest on a very hot day. So, things of that situation where it just takes that, you need a self-knowledge and understanding of yourself that no matter what happens, you can take care of yourself. I have that knowledge and understanding where if I'm in an adverse situation, I know how to get out of it. And B, dealing with the situation appropriately and being like, hey, I got your back, but I got these people's back too. And it creates a win-win for everybody. Right. So because I know that there's, families with kids that are like, oh my gosh, why is there a homeless person? And, someone drove by and like stopped and kind of like looked at the guy first. And I was like, nope. This is going to be a very bad situation in a couple of minutes. And, things worked out. So it takes a lot. But when we are permanently in victim mentality, we are giving other people power over us. So this whole segment, got some great information from some people on the Clock app, but there is a lot of resources out there for you if you are struggling with any sorts of situation. I personally have a resilience journal, and it's more than just like resilience. It's a lot of concepts, a lot of things to go through to kind of like shift your mentality out of victim state and into more of a resilient space and mind and way to navigate this world where there's a lot of deception, where there's a lot of people trying to just keep us down. And, as a Black woman, one thing that really bothered me was like, great, the only thing we get from Black history is slavery. Wow. We didn't do anything else. Nobody invented anything. And, it's been more of a recent thing of figuring out, oh, wow, there is real history, not just slavery. And yes, it's okay to stand for reparations, but don't let that be the end all to your ability to move forward, to craft community with those around you, to step into your personal strengths and really own them, no matter who tries to tear you down. And there is a phenomenon within situations where there will be people, and usually it's older people. There will be people, and usually it's older people, that will open a door for you. And I've experienced this so many different times, where there will be that mentor. But you have to do the work to really like do the research, shift your knowledge set if you need to. Like, there's free courses on Google, there's free courses all over, certified courses, and start building things without someone else's permission. Start just doing your thing. Start with a hobby and let that hobby grow. If you love it, which you better love it if you're doing it as a hobby, but let that hobby grow. So start it, get feedback, and keep going. If it's nourishing your soul to do something, do it. No one needs to stop you. Doesn't matter if someone criticizes you. It's about you nourishing yourself. It's about self-care. And you just keep going. Like, if it's about self-care at the beginning of the day, do it and let it grow. And that is my timer telling me that I am way over time. But I would love to hear more feedback. I'm going to head over onto the Clock app and see if anybody would like to chat about this and come on up for a few minutes. And then if you are listening to this as a podcast, feel free to like, follow, and support in any way, shape, or form. Even just following helps to grow these platforms and helps to support what I'm doing here online. And yeah, I hope that you all got something nourishing out of this and a way out of being stuck in the victim mentality. And just remember, if it is something like PTSD, please get help or support. There are things like EMDR, there's therapists, psychotherapists. There's a lot of resources out there, meditation, breathing meditations. There's a lot of resources. So don't be afraid to explore and to take that time, but face these things. Face them. Don't let them haunt you. Don't carry these burdens around. Don't put them on other people. Don't put them in the future. Heal them. Let those chapters be complete. so that you can move on and take the things that you've learned that are a benefit to your life, not like things like, oh, I can never trust a person again, but I want to build a business. You're not going to build a business if you can't trust people, because oftentimes in business you need to delegate to people, and that takes trust, and that takes a little bit of like not controlling behavior. Yes, I've experienced this personally myself. So there's a lot around this, and we'd love to hear some questions, and I wish you all the best. I'm going to end this episode of Powered by Intuition. Have a good night.